Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Office Hours here on the ViaMonstra Academy. It's 4:30 p.m. Central Time, and this is where we have our weekly update on everything going on in the Intune, ConfigMgr, MDT, Windows updates. You name it. Hey there, Andrew. How are you?
Doing well, and you?
I'm all well. Long day, but plenty of coffee, so I'm in perfect shape. Let's roll the intro here.
Sounds good.
All right, we are back. Well, I have to say, there are benefits of working with or living in the US and working with customers in Europe. Is that I got up really early in the morning to meet their time zone, but at the same time, you get a whole lot done because nobody else is awake. So, brilliant.
That works.
Total sidebar. But what's been going on in our little world?
Yeah, so as usual, got a few things that I came across over the last week that I'm happy to share. If you want to switch over to my screen.
I'll consider it.
All right. The check will be in the mail. All right. So this was the first thing that I saw quite a few people sharing over the last day or so, and wanted to make sure that I pointed it out in case your organization hasn't rolled out some of these policies already. So starting next month, Microsoft is going to start rolling out, auto-rolling out, by the way, some conditional access policies. One is MFA for admin portals. So this is going to be MFA for anybody that has a privileged admin role, and it will require MFA when an admin signs into any of the Microsoft admin portals, which was a newer addition to the conditional access portfolio maybe a month or so ago, I think. MFA for per user MFA users. So if you do have per user MFA enabled, MFA will be required for all cloud apps for those users. And then MFA for high risk sign ins. So any user that has a high risk sign in, and there are a number of detections that determine whether or not a sign in is a high risk, medium risk, or low risk. But those sign-ins will now require MFA and reauthentication. So wanted to point these out because, again, if you're not using these in your organization already, which many are, these can be quite a surprise to you and your users. But this is, I think, all in all, probably a good thing to get out there. Some hopefully low risk for the user experience, but will provide some good security for some high risk potential authentications. So good stuff there. Came across a nice little script from Harm Veenstra, who has had a couple of scripts over the last month or so that I've brought up here. So he is on fire, as they say, over the last few weeks. But he's got a script here that will gather your tenant's autopilot devices, deployment profiles, and the last synchronization date and time, and export them to an Excel workbook with a few different tabs. One for devices here, so we can see all of the information about an autopilot device. One for the deployment profiles that we have in our tenant, and then the sync information here as well in one of the other tabs of the workbook. So again, nice PowerShell script here that's going to help you just export that out and maybe do a little bit of data manipulation, some reporting on those devices and profiles that you have in your tenant. And then earlier this week, the new Windows Lapse solution that we got earlier this year, the Entra ID portion of it was in preview since it was released, and as of 2 days ago, that feature is now GA. So if that's something that your organization if they don't typically roll out preview products in production, or preview services or features rather. This is now GA, and if that's something that you are looking forward to utilizing, I would go ahead and take a look at this again. I did also notice this was pretty cool, Johan, because I know when I first looked at this, this was something that stuck out to me right away. On the roadmap is automatic local administrator account creation when configuring Windows Labs.
That is shiny.
Yeah, so I thought so. So for those of you that don't know, if you were using the built-in admin account, that's disabled by default. So you had a sort of chicken and egg scenario where you had to enable it before you went through and configured Labs. Or if you were using a custom account, you have to create that account yourself before Labs can be configured. So definitely very shiny to see that show up on the roadmap. So we'll be keeping a close eye on that. And last but not least, if I go over to my Intune Admin Center here, and I go to Tenant Administration, you can see that I am on Service Release 2310.
I could see that already on the front page there, where they made some changes directly when you go into the main dashboard there.
Yeah, I kind of spoiled my my surprise there. That's the biggest change I see so far, because if I click on the 2310 link, which takes us over to what's new, the documentation hasn't been updated yet. And I think there are a couple of UI changes that we should be seeing here in 2310 that I'm not seeing yet. But I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to put it out that it should be in 2310. That said, yes, as you mentioned, Johan, the homepage here on the Intune Admin Center got a healthy glow up, a little bit more modernized, it looks like, but quite a bit different, at least from the UI perspective. I was happy to see that some of the known issues, and I think we talked about this one last week, the incorrect count for onboarded MDE devices report. Happy to see those front and center. Just like the look and feel of it, looks a little bit nicer, I think. So happy to see that. But yeah, that's what I have for this week.
All right then. Thank you, good sir. I stumbled across a few things, so let me share my screen as well. So I couldn't stop myself from going and check also to see if my tenant was upgraded to 2310, and sure enough it was, even though this particular tenant is located in Europe and, well, yours isn't. So interesting to see there. Anyhow, I stumbled across a little update regarding updates for .NET 6 and 7 that were re-released the day before. Oh, yesterday. They were released yesterday. So apparently they missed to include some of these updates, and then they addressed that, and we should be all good. And there's also a link to the KB article about this if you stumble across it. So just some heads up there. Then I spent one of my morning hours together with Ken Ogland, known from ConfigMgr, but no, he's been around in the ConfigMgr community for decades now. But we did that was a first for us. We did a live preview of one of our ConfigMgr masterclasses, where we spent about 40 minutes sharing some tips around troubleshooting for ConfigMgr. So if you're interested in learning more about that, highly recommend to watch that session there. And in that session, you also get to learn the story behind this T-shirt with Darth Vader leading an Imperial Walker. So watch that video for that backstory. Now, I also spent some time last week watching, not all of it, because I did not have the time for it. Last week, it must have been this weekend. There is a gentleman named Dame Plummer. He has Dave's Garage on YouTube. he did a 3-hour interview with Dave Cutler, who was the lead brain power behind what we know as Windows NT from back in the days, and he has been continued to develop Windows versions ever since. And this is a 9-minute short version of some of the decisions Microsoft made when they decided to split out the code between the server and client back in the Windows Vista timeframe. Just realized that that was kind of not the best idea, so they merged it back again. But this is some really good war stories. And of course, if you click on the If's Garage, the full website or the full YouTube channel here, and you go to videos, this is also where you see the full video posted here, 3 hours and 10 minutes long. But it's really cool to get these behind the scenes. And for those who haven't listened to Dave Cutler before, he is not the gentleman that how do you say it? He's not a politician, put it that way. He's very point, and if something is not good, it is not good. It's not like opportunity for growth or anything like that. It's like shite is shite. And so I love that. I absolutely love that.
Gotta respect someone that speaks their mind like that.
Yeah, that was the word I was looking for. Speaking, and he does very much. Of course, a friendly reminder also regarding updates. We mentioned this last week, but there is an upcoming Ignite in November. A lot of AI, of course, is on the block, but there is other sessions as well. For those of you that want to attend in person, I don't know if those are still available, but they have a pretty hefty price tag. I think it was 1,500 or 1,600, something like that. But if you decided to join online, it's free. So there's a lot of sessions available. And then I spent some time publishing a blog post. Even though MDT is not developed much by Microsoft anymore, unfortunately, there's nothing that prevents us from doing some contributions to it. And for years and years, ConfigMgr had a template to support, or task sequence template to support the Windows Autopilot for existing devices. So I created one for MDT. And it works like this. After installing the template, you will go to your workbench, create a new sequence. I'm going to borrow that name so I don't have to type too much. But a new sequence. I'm going to give it a clever task sequence ID, AP001. And you give it a name, demo. And then you go ahead and pick that new template, Windows Autopilot for existing devices. And you pick the OS that you want to deploy. In this case, you're going to pick a Windows 11 22H2. I have, in fact, tested MDT also with the latest Insider Preview, or one of the later Insider Preview. It works also, but I'm going to pick that one for now. And other than that, the usual settings. But what you get from using this template is a shorter sequence. Here you have what a normal sequence would look like in MDT, but this one here is much shorter. So we basically apply Windows and add drivers and all that good stuff as usual. But instead of doing a reboot and continue up in full Windows, we stop here. And we copy up a cleanup script because there are some things that we need to clean up in the environment for Autopilot to work and to get rid of all the MDT stuff that is on the hard drive. But I don't run the cleanup just yet because I also want to clean up the sequence engine. And that's really hard to do when the sequence engine is running. So I do that after the reboot. Then I also copy over the downloaded deployment profile from Intune. So in my Intune tenant, I have a bunch of deployment profiles. If I go here, enroll devices, profiles. So I downloaded one of these using PowerShell as a JSON file, and I included a script to do that also in the blog post. And then I simply copy that file over to this particular folder in Windows, in the offline Windows image, and then I restart the device. Now, I don't really need to put in a restart here most of the time, because if I end the sequence in WinPE, and I am in WinPE in this phase, it will restart. But if you have configured MDT to show a final summary screen, it will do that and stop until you click finish. So I added in a little restart with a condition that says, all right, if you have skip final summary, set to no here in this case, go ahead and simply should probably change that to yes, thinking of it. But anyhow, it will restart the device either way here. So after the restart, if I go to the, let me just reconnect this one. Here. So in my control folder, when I create a new sequence, and I go to the one I prepared earlier, this one here, number 5, because as part of the instructions in the blog post is also to copy in an unattend template that is different. A normal unattend file is like 10 kilobytes. An autopilot one is very small, 2 kilobytes. So if I open that one up, you will see that it actually does nothing, because you are not using Autopilot or unattend files with Autopilot, but I'm using it in the specialized pass, which is before out-of-box experience, I run that cleanup script. So that's included in the blog post as well. And if I open up that script, you can see I'm simply having a very, very basic logging function here in the beginning. And then I'm nuking all the unattend files. And I'm also deleting all the MDT info from the environment. And now, since I have rebooted, I'm in the specialized pass. There is no sequence running, and I can go ahead and successfully delete everything. If you don't do this, MDT is going to try to continue after the autopilot enrollment is completed. And that is typically not what you want. So, yeah, that was that one.
That's awesome. And can I just say thank you for the sister blog post that you wrote to get the deployment profiles, because you seemed to do it a little bit easier than I was going about it. Updating for the new version of the Microsoft Graph module.
Yes, I realized that the old script that I had, it was using the old module. Mm-hmm. So I took the time of actually fixing that one eventually. So it wasn't too complicated. It was different.
Yeah,
so this is
absolutely.
a script used to download. Obviously, you need to install the module, but yeah.
Well, and it looks like they've made some updates to that Windows Autopilot Intune module over the last couple of months that weren't there previously. So, yeah, you're making my job a little bit easier by doing this, so thank you.
You're welcome. We can send 2 checks. Perfect.
Absolutely. I think I owe you one from yesterday, too, so you're going to might have to put 2 stamps on that envelope.
Awesome. All right. Do we have any questions coming in today? Speaking of it.
Not seeing too much at the moment.
I have one coming in on YouTube here. Dennis is wondering if there is a good way to prevent users from modifying their profile picture in Office 365. I haven't the foggiest. Do you happen to know, good sir?
I don't. Anytime I've been involved with with that has been more of the opposite. How do we encourage people to update their profile picture? So off the top, I can't think of anything clever for that.
I found a blog post. Let me share what I found. I have no idea if it's working or not, but it kind of sounded promising. Did it not?
Yeah, definitely. Well, and there's a follow up here. There seems to be so many places to disable it. OWA policy, SharePoint Online policy, um,
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah, that, as I mentioned, well, it turned out that neither of us have tried, but we'll put this link in the chat, and you can take a look at it and see if it's any help to your question there, and please let us know if it worked.
Mm-hmm. All right, we've got another question coming in here from Benny over in the UK on YouTube. I know I should stay away from Hybrid Join Autopilot over the internet, but my company has said it's a requirement. Have you seen any other companies successfully use this approach?
I mean, short answer, yes. But the road to get there is extremely painful. Organizations spending months trying to get it set up right so they have all the connectors timing correctly and VPN profiles or applications being deployed, fighting with their security folks to allow their VPN solution to establish a device tunnel, working with always on VPN if you do that for VPN. And I did put together a blog post a little while back that ties into this quite well. Basically, resources that I had to use to get this going in the first place. And the first resource here is a long rant on why you shouldn't. So read that one first and try to use that as an argument for management. But in all fairness, there are environments where there are a lot of legacy dependencies, where it may not be easy to switch over to an Azure AD only environment. Plus the fact that you have to reimage all your devices if you're going to switch over from hybrid to an Azure AD only environment. But then I gobbled together a bunch of resources that I had to read and use the first time I was configuring this. So maybe start there. It is doable. It is a supported solution. It's just royally painful to deal with. I mean, all these warnings, they come from a reason. It's not like if it had been next finish, would have been good. And I don't expect Microsoft to make this any easier either. They don't want it to do this anyway, or either.
No, and I would add, I did just see a post from somebody earlier today, and this isn't the first time that I've heard this. I mean, I've played around with it myself a little bit, but if you haven't, it sounds like that conversation has been finalized. I will preface my comments with that. But if there's a slight chance that it hasn't yet, if you want to share my screen for a moment, Johan, there are a couple of there's a blog post and a video here on configuring Cloud Trust with Windows Hello for Business.
Mm-hmm.
This will make Azure AD or Entra joined devices connecting to on-prem resources. It will make things easier. So I do want to, again, I just happened to come across these for, I don't know, the 10th time earlier today. So the post here from MS Endpoint Manager will help walk through Cloud Trust. And there is a video here from Dean over on the Cloud Management Community YouTube channel that sort of helps walk through that Cloud Trust deployment. So if you have the opportunity, or for those of you that haven't looked into Cloud Trust yet as well, I would take a look at these two resources, see if they're going to make your life and your users' lives easier. So I'll be sure to share these as well.
All right.
All right. Got another question over here on YouTube. Do you have Microsoft Authenticator push messages for MFA via direct RDP over Remote Desktop Manager? Do you have to open the app explicitly and a follow-up comment without RDP? Without RDP, these messages are coming instantly via push notification on my phone. Via RDP, I have to open the authenticator to get these messages.
I have no idea. I don't know.
No, not when it comes to RDP. I don't. I know there are some policies to configure. I don't even recall off the top of my head if it's specific applications or if it's based on user or service. Configuring whether or not it's a push notification or you have to go into the app and grab that code. But I have not exactly this much experience deploying it with RDP, unfortunately. Let's see if I can find that setting though real quick. Well, there's the additional context notification, but that's when you have push notifications on already. Yeah, I'll see if I can dig up that setting and add some documentation of the links. But I think that setting is per user, not per application. So I'm not sure what would be causing that inconsistency there.
All right. Thank you for checking there. We got a question from Jamie regarding some of the new hardware that was announced now for the Snapdragon Summit and more specific ARM support. I can take and show you that link. So here there was an announcement that Windows Central reported about some new hardware coming in where basically more powerful CPUs, long story short. And the question was, okay, how do we deploy these going forward? They haven't been added to ConfigMgr yet, but there was an announcement earlier this year where Microsoft said they will support ARM deployment in ConfigMgr. So that means that they probably will add a ARM version of the task sequence, but we'll see in 2024 if that happens. If you want to deploy a device right now, assuming you can get your hand on one of these or new ARM devices, you can still go old school. And when I say old school, I mean like 65 million years old school. So Jurassic deployment style, how we did deployment back in the when the T-Rex was roaming the earth. But it's fairly straightforward to get, because I was deploying the dev kit, which is an ARM64 device. So I put together some ways to add in PowerShell to WinP11 for ARM. And then I put together a little deployment solution where you put in your WIM file, you add in your drivers in a drivers folder, and then there is just a script that starts the deployment, and then generates an unattended file, a disk part script, some other stuff, injects the drivers. It deploys Windows, and it does it very, very quickly. So you can deploy an ARM device in like 5 minutes. depending on the network speed. But it is doable already today if you don't mind going very old school for it.
I mean, also just from a hardware standpoint, that looked like a pretty cool announcement that was a Qualcomm. It is just huge performance improvements, and I think less power use over Macs and, Apple's latest processor as well as Intel's. I thought I saw too. Did you retweet the? Was that you that retweeted? There was a new Threadripper that was released.
May have done that, but yes, 96 cores.
What a monster!
Yeah, 2 please.
Yeah. Hey,
but
Christmas is coming up.
Yeah, indeed. But I mean, even this ARM device that I got last Christmas, that was part of dev kit, that's one of the fastest computers I have, because there is so little else going on the machine. So
Pretty cool stuff.
Indeed.
All right. We've got a question from Robert here on YouTube. Why are NTFS ACLs on ConfigMgr server being reset? We see this behavior in CM's program files, for example.
Well, if you're talking about when you do upgrades, I have no idea why they do reackling, but it's extremely annoying that they do it. So certain folders, like the client folder and some others, they are getting reackled during upgrades. That might be a good reason for that, but I don't know what that good reason would be.
All right. Easy peasy.
What can I say? It happens.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. We've got a question coming in here from LinkedIn. A question on automation of monthly patching. I'm thinking of using Orchestrator 2022, but resources are quite scarce. Could you point me in the right direction to automate as much as possible for patching?
That would be not using Orchestrator. I'm assuming this is the system center orchestrator as being mentioned. I would not use that for patching. It was not really designed for that kind of flows. I mean, it might be possible, it's doable, but I wouldn't. So if you're a ConfigMgr customers, use ADRs and set up them to be automatic. At least the pilot deployments can be fully automatic. They're done, and you might want to wait with the production ones until you had a chance to verify the pilots. Intune is super easy, or in comparison, super easy to create update rings and have full automation on that one. Good old WSUS still exists. You can do a full automation that way. There are ways to set up automatic routines in WSUS. And for those of you going old school in with Azure or updating from Azure, that can also be automated through scripting and whatnot. So I would focusing on those platforms rather than something that I've never heard of anyone using ever for updates.
Well said.
Well,
all right. Jamie referring to the 7,000 megahertz DDR5 coming out. That's fast.
Yeah, see if I can find that retweet that I did. One of the news accounts I'm following. I haven't been tweeting that much. So
yeah, the Threadripper 7000 series with DDR5. Sorry, thank you for the clarification.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Founded it apparently October 22nd. So this was the post that I reshared. Extreme Tech was the it's a newsletter I'm following, but that one should get some nice performance out of this one. We'll see if their prediction turns out to be true.
Yeah, definitely. And then MSRP of only $9,999. That's it.
Oh, gee. How much was it?
10,000.
Okay, that's a little bit much. If you had said 8, 100, I would have considered it.
Well, at least they did that
$1,000.
trick where, yeah, at least they did the trick where the MSRP is just 9,999, so it's only 4 digits, not 5.
Sure. Yeah, no, another year. When I win the lottery, then.
That's right.
Or Powerball or whatever. One of those. Then I'll buy one.
That's right. Still so cool to see that.
Heck, Andrew, even and this is always being recorded. If I win Powerball, I'll buy you one as well.
Thank you. We have witnesses.
We have witnesses.
All right. Let's see. We've got a follow-up question from Robert here. What is the best way to share the client install folder?
Depends on what I use it for. I usually copy it over to a file server because I don't want that one to change the ACLs. So a lot of folks, they're using a ConfigMgr startup script for deploying that client, and then domain computers need to have access to that folder so they can read it at least. So I usually just copy it over to a file server, DFS share, and then I configure my group policy to get it from there rather than from the ConfigMgr client folder. And the only thing you have to remember is that every time you update ConfigMgr, you have to copy over the new binaries to that secondary client folder. So that was I would recommend doing that instead of using the default location.
Been doing the same thing myself for 10 years.
There you go. Can't go wrong.
No, not at all. And it looks like Jason in the chat as well mentioned same thing. Create a separate folder, share that with the custom permissions.
Yep. Yes.
And you don't have to worry about that reset.
Yes.
All right. Benny said, thank you for the tips on Autopilot Hybrid. Another question, SCCM remote control client settings have the correct permitted viewers configured, but on the client, the group is empty. I've tried new client settings, but the group is still showing up empty.
So the viewers group is an AD group that you add in the users that are supposed to be able to do the remote control. Unless I'm misreading the question here. So there is no group on the client.
If you go into the client settings, if you have, well, you can either share my screen or if you have one of your 15 site servers available.
Since you have it up.
I think this might be what Benny's referring to here. Permitted viewers of remote control and remote assistance.
Yeah, so you add in one of your 80 groups there.
Okay.
And those that are in that group will have permissions to remote in to the devices. And you control the membership in that group. So yeah.
All right. Let's see here. Find my spot again. Russell had a comment here regarding hybrid to Azure AD move. I recommend Forens IT Profile Wizard. Used it to migrate from AD to AAD using a provisioning package without reimaging. On-site only then, but VPN is possible.
Well, I'm afraid I'm going to sound like a jerk, but thank for the tip of the tool, first of all. I'm just afraid of if you had devices that at some point had been in a legacy Active Directory environment, and you have been deploying security settings to those devices through group policies. Even if they are being removed, those policies, there is always that risk that there are lingering security settings on those devices that will come in conflict down the road when you try to do settings or conflicting settings from Intune. And I just have that. I would not like to be in that scenario where it may work type of scenario. I would definitely stick to the recommendation of reimaging those devices so they are fresh from local policies or legacy AD policies when you start to configure them in Intune. I'm too old. I don't have time or don't want to troubleshoot things like that can be easily avoided by just flattening the device and start over.
Well, if I could draw a parallel example maybe from that is, you'll often hear some of our recommendations about not using like decrapifier scripts on Windows and stuff like that for the same or similar types of reasons where it may work now. But when you go to do a feature update in a year or in 2 years or something, it may break. And while I'm sure we can all agree there are certain things that are in our enterprise images that we don't want in there, that shouldn't belong in there, and so there's a reason that those exist. But they, to your point, those settings that you may have forgotten about or whatever could cause you trouble down the line.
Yeah.
All right. Another question here from Robert over on YouTube. Any replacement for the client health VB script?
Yeah, I use a PowerShell version of it. Anders Redland has one that is really good for client health. If you go to andersredland.com, yeah, there you are. This is a great client health script that's been around for years and years, and that's a PowerShell script that runs on the client. I believe it's a PowerShell script.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Question over here on YouTube about sending emails. SSRS reports an SMTP with O365 relay not sending mail. Patch My PC and other scripts can send mail. Is it maybe related to TLS 1.2 not being enabled on the site server? Could be.
I do not know.
It could be, and my blank looking off into the distance is just simply because it's so hard to keep up with all of the TLS changes from the last year for me to definitively say whether or not I don't remember if that was blocked or not on the Exchange side. But if somebody else in the chat knows that definitively, please share, because I know that there have been some changes around what Microsoft was going to allow or disallow.
Wonder if that question regarding the client help script was really about the startup script, which is a VB script that is commonly used. Jason sent his startup script is still a VB script. And we shared the news last week that Microsoft is deprecating VB script out of Windows. Will still be available as a feature on demand for now, but eventually it will be removed according to the statement that was published. So I guess I have to. So they just announced the dates for next year's MVP summit in Redmond or Seattle, Redmond area. So in March 12, I can fly up there and try to twist Jason's arm to create a PowerShell version of his script. So maybe that.
There you go. It looks like, yes, you were right. The question was for the startup script.
Yeah. I mean, it shouldn't be too hard to convert that startup script to PowerShell. Michael Nystrom and I, together with 10 other people, we converted 30, 40 VB scripts over to PowerShell for MDT. That only took barely 2,000 hours in total.
That's all?
Yeah, I don't think it was more. Mike Niehaus said it will probably take 5 weeks. It took us 5 months, the whole team of us. There was a lot of stuff, but just one script shouldn't take that long. That is also quite limited in what it does.
Sure. All right. Got an interesting question here from Jamie. What are your thoughts on servicing apps which Microsoft dropped from the install.wim? For example, 3D Paint 3D Viewer had been in Windows 10, but is not in Windows 11. New builds don't have these apps, but older builds do.
I mean, if you need them and want to have those applications, they are indeed installable as feature on demands, most of them. So that it simply add that to your deployment process and that will be available. I had to do that by trying to figure out why VBScript wasn't available in Windows PE. So I went to a Windows version that didn't have them, and I downloaded them through feature on demand, and I took those files and smacked into the boot image, and that worked. So something like that to continue to download those. I'm assuming that can be enabled offline in the Windows image as well, like they can for Windows PE. I just haven't tried it.
All right. So Robert had a follow-up question on that script. Is a script available? And so I think what you're going to do in March then is try to see if you can get a script to be available.
I will try to convince Jason in doing a PowerShell version of it, because that I don't have to.
Yes. So nothing at the moment.
Correct.
Yep. All right. And a follow-up question here from LinkedIn on the update question earlier was of the same opinion as well, just have a limitation with ADRs. Once deployed to a collection, you cannot currently set a specific time or deployment schedule.
I mean, you can always go ahead and pick the same software update group that was created by the ADR and just do a new deployment if there is something that you cannot change that was created by the ADR. There's nothing to prevent you from doing that. Basically, either disable or remove the old deployment and create a new one, or just create a new one, depending on which collection you are deploying it to. Yeah. I just realized there might be a problem in March there convincing Jason about the startup script. He's like 10 feet tall and he's much stronger than I am, so it's going to be tough.
I don't know. You've been out doing a lot of fence building and horse wrangling recently, so you might have a little edge at the moment.
I'll see. We'll see.
Don't tell him I said that. I guess we'll see him. We'll see him soon too.
Yep.
Yeah,
Is he coming
maybe
to Miami next week?
you know what? I think he is. So maybe the two of us, if it's 2-on-1, we could corner him.
There you go. Yeah, and a shout out to Matt there in the YouTube channel. Good to hear from you again.
Yeah, hey Matt.
All right. Any other questions? We have a whopping 8 minutes to our disposal.
Checking here to make sure that we've got everything so far.
Kurt asked if we saw a comment from LinkedIn. We definitely did not. I only had 2 posts coming in from LinkedIn. Sounds like sometimes that API is missing comments, which is not good. Let's see if I go to the live event itself. See if I can see any comments that we didn't have in our feed. No, it doesn't show up there either. Kurt, can I ask you to repost that comment, because it did not get through either on LinkedIn or in our summarized chat view that are basically aggregating all the questions into one pane for us. In the meantime, Jamie is asking, have you got the link that said ConfigMgr will support ARM in 2024? Wasn't that in the July roadmap, Andrew? Good Lord, don't get old. Memory is... ugh. For OSD ARM support. See if I can find it.
Specifically for OSD, right?
Yeah. And, no, I cannot find that one.
I'm trying to look too.
I have to scroll back and see if I can. I'd like to say it was a tweet or something like that, but I cannot find it easily now.
I was looking at all the usual suspects for the Microsoft official blogs, and I can't seem to find it either. So Kurt followed up that he reposted and then reposted it in 2 parts. Maybe it was too long, but I still am not seeing it come up on our end. Nor on LinkedIn itself.
Yeah, sorry. Well, seems that one won't come through. Technology sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's strange.
Hey, I found the link.
Woohoo!
I think. Yes, found it. I knew it was somewhere. It was one of the blogs that came out last month.
Do you have it up on your screen?
Oh yes, I do, but I didn't share it. So here, this was a blog post that came out by Nancy here, general manager. But in this, if you search for 2024, there was an announcement here. In spring 2024, we will allow the ability for customers to build agreements to RSS using ConfigMgr OSD.
Wow.
So that should be in the 2403 release of ConfigMgr then, since they changed that from 3 times a year to 2 times per year, or twice. Yeah. So yeah, here is the official wording.
Awesome. Great find. That's in the middle of a Surface blog post.
Well, have a unique last name, put it that way.
So Kurt asked, what link should I post the question? And Kurt, if you're, I noticed that you mentioned links a couple times. We have had issues with links being posted in the chat. I'm not sure if both YouTube and LinkedIn possibly are actually stripping links out of chat messages.
But maybe if you can drop it in an email and we can review it next week. Be happy to do that. Because today we are up on time. That hour flew by pretty quick.
I would say so. Great questions and comments, though, as always.
Everyone, thank you so much for joining today. Andrew, thank you for being here, and we wish you a great rest of your week, everyone. Bye for now.
Thanks. Thank you, Johan. Have a great one, everybody.
See if I can get the video going. There we are.